Hello and welcome to a specially extended episode of Talking Snooker with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Once again, talking about the game we all love.
We are indeed on a monumental time for the sport. It's felt like that anyway. Not so much on the table, but a very special announcement off it.
Very much so, Phil. It really has been quite a week. And yeah, monumental, momentous, any other big words you could think of beginning with M, they all apply because, yeah, we're all digesting what has undoubtedly been seismic news in snooker. Let's tell you the details then. The World Snooker Championship will remain at the Crucible in Sheffield until 2045, with the venue set to be redeveloped to add up to 500 additional seats. The new long-term deal at the 980-seat capacity theatre also includes an option to extend it until 2050. During the redevelopment period after the 2028 edition, the tournament will be staged in 2029 at an alternative venue. National and local government will supply 35 million of the 45 million revamp cost, with the other 10 million coming from the private sector. Snooker's premier event has been staged at the Crucible since 1977, with the most recent deal prior to this announcement having been due to expire in 2027. Just say we do understand that we feel that the tournament could be staged elsewhere in 2030 as well as 2029. The hope is just for one in 29. This, as I say, is seismic news. Now, you're not just a great snooker man, as we know, Phil, but a great Sheffield man. To me, you must have the first reaction. The floor is yours. Good luck. You've got to sum up what has been. This has gone far beyond snooker, far beyond sport, a genuinely national story. And yeah, it's taking some time to get our heads around it, eh?
Yeah, it's absolutely huge news. It's been obviously it's been going on for a long time, the negotiations, and we've been chatting about it for seemingly forever. But then it seemed to come together quite quickly, really, in terms of going from we weren't sure what's going on, then it was like, okay, it's swinging that way. It was Jason Ferguson's meeting Keir Starmer in China, wasn't it? And then the Prime Minister being spotted at the Crucible, and we thought, oh, something's bubbling up here very quickly. And we knew we were going to hear something before the World Championships, but I wasn't convinced it was going to be a firm announcement by any means. And then when it came, the details were very surprising in terms of the length of the contract to go to 2045 and potentially 2050. But then when you heard the numbers in terms of the investment, the money spent, then it all makes sense. You know, you're not going to plough that sort of money into the Crucible Theatre and not expect a long-term return on it. So, yeah, yeah, as you said, I'm from Sheffield. I live here, so I cannot hide my bias to some extent, and I'm thrilled for the city. It's great news to keep the tournament here. The last figures that I saw, these sort of changed over the years, but last year it said it was worth £4.5 million to the city's economy. So this investment should pay for itself, and is great news for the city centre and just widely the city in general. And it's great news for the sport. I think obviously there was the debate over should we go and try and chase more money elsewhere or keep the history. And they seem to have ticked a lot of the boxes all in this one deal here, haven't they? You know, taking it to 1,500, which I think is a lovely number for a snooker venue. Around that, the that sort of artistic impression of what it's going to look like in the round makes it look really great. The whole theatre will have a different feel, but hopefully still the same sort of intense, tight feel that it does, just with that side where there's no seats at the minute filled in. And it's great news as well for the theatre the rest of the time. I'm not sure how often they're going to sell out 1,500 seats for plays at the Crucible, but they now have the chance to do that. And being there on the announcement on Tuesday, wasn't it? It was a real party atmosphere. It felt like that press conference. Everyone was buzzing, and everyone spoke really well. Obviously, Barry Hearn, we all know how he speaks, and it's always very impressive. But was Tom Hunt, who's the leader of the council, and Tom Bird, who's the chief exec, I think, of Sheffield Theatres. They were just so excited to get this done. Um, and they spoke very impressively about what it means for the city. And Barry obviously spoke what it means for the sport, and we all know how good news it is for the sport. So, yeah, I guess the attention will turn now to what's going to happen in 29, and I'm going to say 30 as well is most likely. And when I spoke to everyone there, they were like, "Oh no, it's most likely 1 year." But I think we all know, having dealt with anyone in sort of the building trade in your personal lives or have followed any of these projects, they're planning for 18 months. I'd be surprised if anything is done on time, really. So I'd say let's hope for 1 year away, but I'd say more likely two.
Always going to be harder job than we thought, mate. We're
Yeah.
going to we're going to get a bit of that, aren't we? Maybe we'll see. Yeah, look, I mean, it's great summing up. And I know you were there, and you paint the picture very well there for us of the atmosphere. I mean, us journalists, we kind of act a bit like we've seen it all, don't we? And we certainly talk like that, even if we don't always feel it. I think it's our natural way to talk like that. But I have to say, eyebrows were raised when we heard the length of the deal, the 2045. My eyebrows for sure, maybe yours, others too, I know, because I had a quick look around and I thought, oh, yeah, there's a bit of shock there. I mean, if someone had said to me 2035, I might have been able to think, oh, that's about right. But the 2045 was I'd go as far as saying stunning for me.
Mm.
With an option for 2050. People that are involved in golf journalism, we sometimes laugh about the way the Americans do things. They know where the sort of 2053 US Open is going to be. Absolutely ridiculous things like that. But the tradition in UK sport isn't really for that, though, in terms of sort of projects, in terms of, well, TV deals for one thing. Americans do huge, it's not quite the same thing, but they do huge TV deals, 10 years, 50. We don't. We do it in increments. We do 3 years, 3 years, three. So I don't think the UK psyche is very good. I mean, we dealt with it. We deal with most things with jokes, and of course we did that kind of thing. See you in 2045. I was going to do a line about trying to get an Airbnb, but I sort of, I was too busy in the end. But I don't think we quite have the psyche to appreciate. God, that's a long, long time.
Mm.
It's a generation. It's generations into the future, and almost, I've said it elsewhere. I can almost think it's staying at the Crucible for good. That's what it feels like. It's staying there long term. I mean, God knows how people around then at that time will feel because it'll then have such an extraordinary weight of history. There it does already.
Mm.
But a lot of things to say, really. And I must make sure I go back to you so not too much on my voice. But obviously, generations more will be able to go. That's brilliant. Other sacred places in sport have changed. This is what I've got in my head. Lords is completely different to when I first went there. You know, Lords has changed bit by bit by bit. Whether you talk about the big media centre at one end and all that whole stand at one end of the ground, various other stands. Yeah, it's in Lords, it's in that same place. But you look at pictures and videos of Lords from the 70s, it's a different
Yeah.
place. Wimbledon's completely different. It's on the same site, but when I was growing up, when I first went to Wimbledon 35, 40 years ago, entirely different place. Number one court was different. It's a new number one court now. Number two court used to be the courtyard of the court of graveyard court as they called it for champions. That's gone. Loads of the outside courts are different. I'm going to end there by rather than go on about it. Well, apart from to add Wembley, that's a whole new stadium.
Yeah.
But they've got the history going. And we still talk about the magic of going to Wembley for finals. Well, we're actually the same spot. It's not the same place. It's not the Twin Towers now. It's a whole different. It's the Arch now. It's a different place. So this is a common theme in sport. It's not new. And in many ways, I mean, we'll wait and see. I think the Crucible will be closest to how it's always been than those other options,
Mhm.
those other examples. I would say. The other thing to say is this is a bit of a niche point. It's not that unusual for great events to go off for a temporary period. Because
Mm.
I have seen one or two people say that's a bit of a disappointment actually, even those in the game, or they feel it would lose a thread a bit, and that's their view, but that's fine. But obviously, this is going to take some time to do it. That's the point. It's a practical decision, but also the cup final was in Cardiff for 6 seasons. I was thinking about
Mm.
it in my head. I remember going to Royal Ascot at York in '05. Remember it very well. I enjoyed it actually. Royal Ascot just wasn't at Royal Ascot. So these things happen. And I think I saw one or two good judges say that across the round, across the sort of decades and decades and decades, little things like that are fine, really. They're just fine.
Mm.
They just happen. It's a bit like when well, we didn't miss a championship thanks to COVID, but they missed a Wimbledon, they missed an Open. It's events, dear boy, events. So that's what I'd say about that. But maybe I'll go back to you now. But just to say, what I would like to add for a bit is that I don't want to just be in this mindset that rah 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 every sentient being thinks this is great, because this is not North Korea where sort of 99% of the population vote for our dear leader. There will be people in Sheffield that do say homeless problem this city is terrible. I've seen it with my own eyes. There are people visiting food banks. I don't want to get too political. Why is this that famous phrase bread and circuses, which I think I really get that, even though I love sport and love events. It's not going to have an immediate return, is it? That's the thing to press. And I know I mentioned a couple of things we briefly spoke before we came on air. It's a long-term thing. You mentioned that 4.5 million it brings in every year. It will pay for itself. It might not pay for itself now, and I get that. People are like, how can you do this when there's these other, you know, such pressing concerns for the people of this city? But it's an event that brings a lot of joy, and it brings a lot of money. Even if you don't like the
Mm.
joy, if you don't like your sport, it brings you money. It'll get money that will go back into the economy. VAT will be paid on hotel bills that people pay and restaurant bills. And I said to you, didn't I, during the week, you know, and it's not exactly something you can really answer. You're not in the head of every Sheffield resident, but I was saying, do you think I'm writing? And the way I covered it by saying, I think it's my opinion. I said, I think this will be welcomed by the vast majority of Sheffield residents. I spoke to some old friends of mine at Radio Sheffield. They were all delighted to a person, really. I get the feeling that percentage wise, it would be 80 more, maybe. I don't know. I'm just plucking a number out of thin air there. I think it's popular with the city. I'm delighted for the city. It's a place I absolutely love. And that's not the only thing that puts Sheffield on the map. There are loads of things, but this is the big thing that puts Sheffield on the map, isn't
Mm.
it, Phil? I mean, I would say, oh, it's 2 weeks there. It's more like 3 or 4, really. If you actually take into account, that's quite a lot in a year. And I'll tell you another thing, then I will go back to you. I wouldn't be surprised now to see it become even more of a festival there in the years to come, because we got that knowledge it's staying. I bet Tudor Square is even better. I bet other parts of the city embrace the snooker more and more. I can't wait to see what's happening in the surrounding areas. I think it's going to be Sheffield's always been had embraced it. I think it's just going to get better in the years to come. That comes from a pessimist. Back to you.
Yeah, yeah. I think if you ask, people in Sheffield, I would guess, if they're pleased for it to stay, that would be sort of almost unanimous, But then you get into the details of, the money spent, and that's the same thing whenever there's like public money spent on anything. People will always say, "Well, why didn't you spend it on something else?" Um, that you could say that about anything, and yeah, I get that. But like you say, it sounds like quite a good investment, really, in terms of what they've spent and what the city will get back, and the country more widely. If there was actually any chance of it going abroad, that would have been a huge loss. So yeah, look, we're biased as snooker people. We want that's great news that the government has stepped in to help this happen. Um, but I think it just is a good thing in general, whether we were snooker fans or not. And yeah, I think that's right about sort of spreading away from the Crucible as well, making it more and more of a snooker festival when it's on. I'm sure other sort of hospitality business in Sheffield will see what happens to the head of steam and the graduate round there and want to get involved in that, because I was seeing some quotes from someone who ran the head of steam the other day saying it's just like a second Christmas to them.
I
A
saw that.
huge amount of money, yeah.
Mm.
There's a new pub gone in just around the corner. They're called the Fargate, just on the main stretch. That's opened since the last World Championship, so I'm sure they'll hope to do very good business out of it. And yeah, I think it has sort of spread its wings a bit from the Crucible, but not that far really. You're not
Mm.
walking far on Tudor Square, and there's plenty more to the city than that. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I just saw today that they're doing the big green carpet thing that they did last year, which I thought was an excellent addition. It's one of those things that was just like, well, why it starts so well? It's like, why wasn't this something like this done a long time ago? I think that's like 1 till 2 o'clock on the press day, but it starts at like 11 o'clock with music and stuff. But the players walking in is 1 till 2. So yeah, come on down to that if you're around because I thought that was really good last year. Um, but yeah, no, it was all. It all felt very positive, and of course there will be the odd naysayer. I haven't seen many, to be fair,
No, I haven't.
outside of that point you made. Um,
I have
yeah,
more political forums, by the way, and
yeah. I think
and they're people that have valid views as well. And I've made a point of looking at those actually. The UK Prime Minister tweet, and not just on Twitter, because you get a certain brand of opinion there. Sometimes I've looked at other forums, I've looked at Sheffield forums, and yeah, I agree about the vast majority, but I've tried to look a bit outside snooker as well. But the benefits are there, aren't they? That's the thing. And just to say as well, some people and not there's this idea sometimes that everyone in snooker that didn't want it to stay at the Crucible was some kind of anti-snooker, sort of rotter. That wasn't the case. There were good snooker people that thought actually the two main things were it needs to be bigger. That's the biggest thing, and maybe facilities. Well, the ones that I know that were worried about that are now happy because they're saying, "Oh, we're getting the numbers now, and we're getting the better facilities." So it seems like it's the best of every world in that sense, eh?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think the mood music had swung a bit. Certain with certain players, um, were leaning more towards wanting to leave to go and chase some more money, and as you say, get more people in, just expand the sport. But I think I haven't spoken to loads of players, and we'll hear about this when we get in the coming days and weeks, what everyone thinks about it. But I think, yeah, like you say, they'll get what they want in terms of the expansion and staying with the history. But there will be pressure quite soon on um, the prize money because obviously that's what they were talking about a lot of the time. Obviously, it was getting more people in to see it, but also we had to move to this bigger imaginary venue so we can boost the prize money. Well, they're staying and the venue's getting bigger, so I think they are going to have to put the prize money up soonish, or the players are going to be frustrated. But yeah, we've obviously been asking about that, haven't we? And
Mm.
I think we're expecting an announcement during the World Championship when the prize money goes up, until what we don't know, but there is news coming, we think. Um, I don't think it's going to go straight up to like the darts £1 million one. Their TV deals are sort of astronomical compared to um, most other sports, really. But yeah, so I think most people, sports wise, are pleased with getting the best of both worlds on the history and the expansion.
Definitely. I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. Darts has been a great success story, but darts has got unbelievably fortunate with Luke Littler. I mean, any
Mm.
sport, it's a lot of it's Littler. Even that new
Yeah,
TV deal, a lot of that is Littler. And good luck to them. I sound like I'm just being all, sort of not. I'm happy, but for them, but they've got to remember that that is a big part of what's happening. You mentioned, I think that must be the same piece I saw. The manager of the Head of Steam, I think it was on the BBC. There's also saw the manager of Marmaduke's, that lovely
mm.
cafe around the corner. I've seen some quotes from hotels people. You're right about the Christmas thing, and the percentage, of the takings throughout the year. It's massive. The Head of Steam, if you haven't been, and sometimes we talk like everyone in the world has, of course, and that's not true. Is right outside the Crucible. It's on Tudor Square, isn't it? It's where people have a few drinks, have a bite to eat, watch the big screens throughout the tournament. He obviously does amazing business. So for them, but so many businesses, so many businesses in Sheffield, just it's just a wonderful boom time for them and for the local economy, for the South Yorkshire economy. Well, I've seen some players' reaction. Of course, one to you, Phil, a line that stands out. Anyone with snooker in their blood will be welcoming this. That's Sean Murphy. And, I've spoken a bit to Sean as well, funny enough, in the recent days. He is absolutely delighted. And I did see a few sort of, the ones that won't be happy. And a few people were sort of, I wonder about Neil Robertson. Well, he's delighted, he's saying. He's delighted. He wanted it to be bigger. So, I mean, I've generally seen very good, reaction across the board. You know, we just got to emphasize it time and time again. history isn't everything in sport and in life, but it is important. And we built up half a century. And I remember other very good judges in the past, people that have been around a long, long time covering this sport, quite rightly, in my opinion, saying we haven't always done history that well. Snooker's been a bit chaotic, and part of that chaos is part of its charm, but the price we paid for the chaos a bit, i.e., tournaments starting, tournaments ending, things moving. We haven't always built up a thread of history, I think, but we
Mm.
have with this championship. We have with
Yeah.
this championship. And since 77, I was just thinking that I was saying a couple of days ago, I wonder, when it comes to 2045, how long ago it will look. Things like Terry saying, I'm in the final now, and Alex Higgins, baby, my baby, will be incredible. But they'll still be shown because that will be part of the history of what's happened in that room. Then is Taylor's waggling finger. He's beginning to annoy me. Ronnie and Judd, that embrace. I mean, you get winner, winner, chicken dinner. I always love that from Stuart. These moments, they pass through the generations. And I've loved the element of people sort of saying to me, and I've seen it written down as well in places, the family thing. A lot of sports, football's a big one for this, but snooker is too, the people that we used to watch snooker with. Some of them may not be with us now. The next generation, people saying to me they can bring their children, they can bring their grandchildren. That's how long into the future this is. And more can go. I mean, it sounds sort of obvious, but more can go now. By the way, this old cynic though, and I must admit, it's not just me. A few people have said, "Well, it's not." I'm going to say it now, a bit naughty maybe, but let's not presume. We have to work hard. Let's not presume that arena is going to be full, 1,500 seats every day in the future. That might be an issue. People say to me, "Well, I can still get a ticket now when I want, as much as it's a golden ticket." Not necessarily, but that's an issue for another day. But yeah, it's exciting, undoubtedly. It's brilliant. And you said about getting along there and to the media day, you're so right. The green carpet event. I think get there this year if you can. I think it's going to be
Yeah.
tremendous. It's always tremendous. This year's going to be a buzz around that Tudor Square, that tournament. It's going to be magic, actually. We're going to just, revel in it. All of us lucky enough to be going. And we haven't sort of said it yet, Phil, but probably an obvious point. We don't have to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the big thing. Back to you. I mean, I won't have it that every single year with domination. That's not the case, but I will accept an awful lot of them were too much. And anything that gets us back talking about what's happening on the old 12 by 6, the beautiful break building, which I must admit I'm a bit guilty of sometimes talking around the sport a bit and looking at all the film. What's happening over there, rather
Mm.
than on the table. And, I know a lot of fans have voiced frustration over the years, sometimes with us, but I think unfairly because we're just doing our job. But, this takes it away now. We don't have to ask about the Crucible. Thank
Yeah.
God.
I think there was one, it was like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe, where it felt like it really was constantly being talked about. And like partly by me and you, just I'm not passing any blame, but then I think it sort of died down, even though the end of the contract was getting closer, because one year had gone so much. I think I certainly tried to speak about it a bit less. But it's still, yeah, I mean, you had to speak about it though. Obviously, it's a huge thing. So yeah, it's nice to not have that front and center anymore. Although there will be plenty of interest about where it's going in the gap year or gap years. That's going to be fascinating to see. I think they genuinely don't know yet, and it seems that way anyway. So we'll see. It did seem that the UK, somewhere in the UK, is the most likely, but we don't know. I mean, there's some obvious candidates, isn't there? Like where we play already in sort of Ali Pally or York. I think it'd be more interesting to go somewhere different, test something out. I mean, I actually really think I don't think it's very likely because TV contracts, but it probably should go to China for a year if they can. The amount what they've done for the sport in recent years,
Mm.
they deserve it, and it would be a spectacular sort of one-off if that could be pulled off. But as I say, I think the UK is a more likely scenario. Um, yeah, one thing I wanted to mention was you mentioned Neil Robertson because he sort of popped into my head for this. It doesn't sound like the sort of playing area in the two-table setup is going to change much, if at all. So
That's
those
true.
guys like Neil and Stephen Maguire's mentioned it before, that they don't like how tight it is in terms of playing shots can be made more difficult by how small it is. So those guys who might say, "Oh, it's getting a big revamp," they'll get a bit more space. Probably not really. So there might be a little
Right.
bit of disappointment when it gets to that. But I mentioned that to Murphy in that piece that I did with him, and he loves it the way it is. So he had no complaints there. And yeah, what you mentioned, I mean, I got a bit emotional on that bit when I was thinking about when I first went when I was 11 with my dad, and now I'll be able to say my lad when he's similar age to the same place. So there'll be loads of people who think things like that, and that is really nice.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. Continuing to pass down through the generations. Why does Sean not mind it then? But do you think it has enough space? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess people talk about people like walking into the shot, don't they? And the sort of pre-shot routines, but I don't know. I think it just gets in people's heads, isn't it? I guess you'd think that some of the taller players would struggle with it more than others, maybe. But I mean, Sean's a tall man.
Mm,
I don't know, but
mm.
yeah, it's been Neil's been the most vocal about that sort of thing over the years, and Maguire's the one that pops into my head, but they're not the only ones. Um, but for the fans' point of view, it's a great thing, isn't it? That people love how tight it
Oh
is.
yeah.
You know, the whole cliche of like you can just reach out and touch the players if they're playing sort of shots by the middle pocket. It's true, isn't it? You could just
Oh
grab the cue
God.
off them if you wanted.
So much. And when it's a two table setup, it's crazy. There's no doubt about it. I mean, what we haven't really said much about is the actual redevelopment. Uh, and I suppose we're left wanting there a bit because we can only say so much. We see an artist's impression,
Mm,
and as you said, it looks great because it's like that a little bit like some other snooker arenas. Actually, it's that proper round the whole thing, and it's like diagonal. I think that word diagonal we kept being told a lot. It's sort of going up in the diagonal kind of feature, and I suppose the obvious thing to say is where the commentary boxes are, that end, they're going to make much better use of that space, aren't they? With
mm,
seats. I mean, again, I don't want to get into this too much. I don't really know. I'm obviously not an architect, but I did say quite a long time ago on this podcast. I remember saying it's a shame. And I remember us discussing it that they can't find. I think I might have said 300 or 400 more seats because
mm.
that would make the problem go away. Well, that's kind of what's happening. I mean, I'm trying to envisage 1,500 seats in a space that's not different, which is ultimately what's happening. But listen, it's going to be a hell of a job in a way. But we're also told, of course, Phil, that the backstage facilities will be revamped, new media room. There'll be a new concourse. There'll be various elements to this. It's going to look different, and but with the essence of it, as you say, the essence of it. They're not rebuilding it out because it's a listed building, isn't it? Someone else reminded me of that,
Okay.
so they have to be, very careful. I'm sure they will be, you know. But there we are, 45 million. I keep flitting about that. I must admit, my initial reaction was, I've got to be totally honest, and I think I might be in a minority here, was like, that's not actually a lot of money for a big public project. And I was looking up because I thought it helps to get in my head things around my way, like leisure centres that I know that have been done. And it's sort of similar numbers for that. And I suppose it seems like a big job. Then others have sort of pointed out, well, it's not actually knocking anything down, it's just a
Mm,
redevelopment job. So, I mean, listen, my early instincts were that it will cost more than that. But that's just more of an instinct thing. We'll wait and see. We know that breakdown of the 10 million, the 25 million, and then the sort of 10 million from private sources. The Prime Minister was important in this. We
mm,
have asked this, haven't we? He was important. So Keir Starmer, I think he came down from that by-election that was held recently when he was seen at the Sheffield at the Crucible. And there's great pictures, isn't there, of him meeting people inside there. And yeah, what we're not doing, of course, so you mentioned it briefly, is talking about the other 11 months of the year. It's going to be good for the city, for the plays. Of course, they've got the
mm,
Lyceum as well. So Sheffield Theatres is a really big part of that city, isn't there? They can put
mm.
on these different productions at different brilliant venues. So, it's one of those, again, if you want an immediate return, you're not going to get it. But if you want long term into the future for the next generation, that's where it's going to come into its own. And don't forget, 1,500 more money. I doubt they'll put the prices down of tickets, Phil. I can only see
No.
them staying the same or going up. So more money will be generated in that way. More people will be buying dinner and lunch and drinking and staying because there's more people attending and all these things. And I'll tell you another thing. I don't think we always sold it as a bucket list. I don't even like that phrase. I've used it now. I don't think we ever sold it enough as a golden ticket thing. We do now, and boy, will in the future, won't we? Now
Mm.
this has happened. That'll be ramped up even more. People will be
Yeah.
like, it'll be like Willy Wonka, won't it? Now you know you got to go. Rare mention of Willy Wonka on the podcast. Yeah, so it's just I don't know if we covered all the ground there we wanted to. I think we probably have done. There's a lot to say, I know, and yeah, 29 and maybe 30. I've got to say there was a big rumor at the UK Championship in York, and give or take, it was a very accurate rumor, wasn't it? Actually, I
Mm.
mean, there was a few bits of nuance, but the part of the rumor was that it would move to Manchester. And so I've got that sort of fixed in my head for some reason. I sort of, that would be my favourite, I've got to be honest. And I think Manchester Central is already a place we know. It's tried and tested. It has a gravitas, that place, for me. I loved going last year. That would be my suggestion. But I tell you what, I also would understand if they wanted to keep the Sheffield thread going. I've heard talk of the arena. That's where I saw Madness, wasn't it? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't, I, I'll be honest, I don't, for 1 or 2 years it would be fine, but it has to me that particular location, just by the way it is, doesn't really have the joys of the city centre, does it? It's
No, not
nothing
at all.
really. There's nothing really near it. I don't want to say soulless. That's a bit mean, but it hasn't got the soul of Tudor Square
Yeah.
anyway.
No,
That'll be
no,
my
it's
that.
it's not great at all, I would say. I mean, it's great, it's perfect for those big gigs, and they have the Premier League darts, big things like that. Um, but no, I don't think it would be great, to be honest. You could get a huge
No,
amount of people in if you wanted to.
yeah.
I mean, the capacity could be enormous if you wanted to go mad with it. The City Hall, I think, is great. I've seen quite a lot of things there. I don't really know if it could be set up appropriately for it, but that's a nice sort of size, similar size, over 1,000 seats, 1,500 seats, something like that. And that's a beautiful building right in the middle of the city.
Mm,
Don't know if that's even feasible, could happen, but yeah, I mean, again, showing more Sheffield bias. Obviously, I would love it if it was stayed
mm.
there as well, despite having just said China should have it. I would be even more delighted if it stayed somewhere in Sheffield. Um, but yeah, we'll see.
You weren't on China's side for long there, were you?
No, I mean, Sheffield's choice one. China can be number two. But yeah, we'll see. I don't think there would be many options outside of those two, though. I don't know where else it could possibly be in Sheffield other than those options. But yeah, we'll see. I think another line before I forget was that I don't know if you saw that piece that I wrote with Jason Ferguson when he mentioned maybe
Yeah,
doing
the
hoping
academy.
for like a national academy, which could be in Sheffield. But I mean, he was quite sort of bullish on it, and as sort of we'll be doing this and we'll be talking to these people. I mean, I think he's only sort of in the ideas stage at this time, so not expecting anything immediately. But that would be another huge boost for the sport and the city, I think. But I mean, this is Sheffield is a bit irrelevant on that bit. It would just be a huge boost for UK sport if that did happen.
Of course. I mean, I already regret saying that thing about it might not sell out in the future, really. But one element I would say is that you know the way the game is going is towards China taking over as the most powerful force. That's just the way it's going. That's it. So that ties into what I said that there are some people that, and I understand the concerns, will say, well, in 10, 15, 20 years' time, if there are fewer UK players doing well, will the public still be as interested now? There's a lot of nuance here. I mean, I don't think this sport. I mean, I say it's sort of pious. I never even look at nationality. That's silly because, of course, I'm aware. But has it really ever been a big thing where players are from? I don't know. I mean, to me, I don't know. I mean, I don't. If I look at someone like Ding, I don't really think, oh, there's Ding from China. I think it's just Ding, and I
Mm.
almost think that about a lot of them. Really, I don't think, oh, what a great match between this Scott and this Welshman. A bit. That's one of the beauties of snooker. It's not almost not about nationality, but I do get the point as well that if it's hugely small number of UK players, then maybe that. So this is where Jason Ferguson is sort of forward thinking. Well, he's a guy that gets things done historically, or certainly got a half decent track record. So we'll wait and see. And yeah, I mean, the qualifiers for those tournaments when it's away will be in Sheffield. So and I like your City Hall idea. I do see that. My feeling is it'll be the north of England. I mean, I've heard a few London. I'll be surprised if they go for London. I just wouldn't mind it, obviously, but I can't see that. I can see the thread of the north continuing. But listen, it's fascinating, Phil, to think about that, and wonderful to think that we'll be going back this year, knowing that the future is secure. And the people that make the pilgrimage every year, of course, the ones that we know so well, it's just like it's Christmas for them.
Yeah.
Their reaction has been wonderful because but it means so much to all of us. So it's good news. It really is. We were expecting it, I think, but this degree, I don't think we were expecting, not this
Yeah.
length. So are you happy we've done that?
Yeah.
Enough for this episode?
Yeah, and just a congratulations to everyone who worked on that again, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, as I think we fairly said, nothing's unanimous in terms of reaction, but it's been very warmly received, and everyone who put that deal together, um, from World Snooker to the various politicians, the people at the Crucible and everything, have done a good job. Yeah, I think from speaking to people, it seems like the Chancellor was actually quite involved in finding that money and getting that together, but she hasn't got much of a shout. So a rare positive review for her, I suppose, these
Mm.
times. And the local politicians, obviously, I know one of them very well. Worked hard on getting it done as well. So yeah, just well done to everyone who got it sorted.
Exactly. And an awful lot of those local MPs were so heavily involved in it. I know those from the council as well. And yeah, it's a hell of a deal, a hell of a moment in the sport. And what I loved is the attention it created. I nearly went to start waving mad when that football quiz was leading the BBC website, even when the news was announced. I thought I was going mad. But they moved it over eventually. I thought, oh my God. And the Crucible led the agenda. Dan Rowan there on the news that
Mm.
night. Proper journalists in proper papers, not agency copy. Lots of big hitters writing stories. I love that. We don't have that enough. Wish we had it more, but we had it that day and this week, and that's been great. So massive new deal. The World Snooker Championship for sure, staying at a revamped Crucible until 2045, and with an option for 2050.
That
And
that option for 2050, someone asked me that on Twitter, and I meant to find out and I haven't, but I don't know what that actually entails. I mean, we've got a long time to find out, so it doesn't really matter. But who can trigger that option, and how would it be done? I don't know the details of that, but we can find out at any point in the next 18 years.
that seems to me like a formality, though. Really, when they say things like
Yeah.
that means it will tick over. Really, that would be my gut instinct on that. I'm doing a lot of gut instincting today, Phil, and I think it's time to say that's a very important segment of this special extended episode of the podcast done. And your company is always appreciated on this episode and all episodes. And you are listening to the Talking Snooker podcast with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Nothing happening in snooker next week, Phil. It's going to be very quiet. Yeah, because we've got a brilliant event, the Tour Championship. Our cup runneth over. Starts at Manchester Central on Monday. And listen, I know you'll be part of the event, and we just know how special it is. Nothing's been as good as the first one. I always say that. I mean, but that first one was so extraordinary. But a few of the additions have come close to that, and it's long format snooker. It's big matches every day. It's the best players. I'm trying to get that thing that, and I can be guilty of this, what's this mean for the Crucible? We'll do a lot of that, but we must also remember this is in its own right a big tournament. Just don't win it if you want to win at the Crucible.
Yeah.
That's what I say. But they don't think like that. They want to win every week in every big event, of course. But yeah, the portents aren't good. But one of these superstars, is going to banish that and win the double one day. I wonder if it's this year.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it's bound to happen at some point, but yeah, everyone will be. I'm sure everyone will be fully focused on doing their best there. I mean, it's 150 grand top prize,
Mm.
and it's just a great tournament, isn't it? A great venue. It's it's not been around that long really compared to a lot of other tournaments, but it's quickly
No,
established itself as one of the highlights of the season. Obviously a great lineup. You can't really fail when it's the top 12 on the 1 year list. Um, I think we've got past the point where we're even talking about that, but I think everyone did prefer it. It was 8 really, but fair enough. We've got the 12 now, and we've got used to it. And yeah, there's plenty to look forward to. I think last season's one was fantastic. There were some strange results when like Hawkins absolutely walloped Murphy. Was it 10-1 in the first round and went on to it was a great final, Higgins and Selby. That was yeah, really memorable game. So we know we're going to expect some good stuff, and it just sort of gets us into the two session mood for the World Championship. And yeah, I'll be there for the first few days. Looking forward to it. Um, Great venue, great city. Yeah, I mean it's all good stuff for the Tour Championship, really.
everyone did before it when it was 8, and then sort of said, "Oh no, it's okay when it's 12 because of this and that." But really, they were saying it was the best event in the world because it was 8, weren't they? But
Mm.
I do sort of see, I do see the practical elements. But you know, I'm not sure it was done exactly for the practical elements. That might be a sort of clever way of saying it, but I think it was. Well, listen, the one in Hull was so unlucky. I'm still the only person in snooker that thinks about Hull, probably. I don't know, maybe not. But I think they were unlucky. I really do.
Yeah,
That was the 1 year when virtually all the big stars missed it. I mean, you couldn't make it up.
yeah, it
That
was
was
odd.
really bad luck on behalf of Hull. I know we got a great outcome now, and that's it. But and partly because and yet it was extended to 12, and yet the funny thing is, I thought, well, you never the big stars are never going to miss it again. It was obviously a huge one-off, and they haven't done since. But that's the way it goes, and it was done. I think for I think partly my view it was done because they wanted to avoid that scenario again. But I'm sure there was an element of the practical thinking as well, and because this avoids some early endings now, doesn't it? I think
Mm.
is what is one of the lines we're told. But listen, some great matches to come. Monday, let me give you the schedule. Monday, 1 p.m. Judd Trump against Mark Allen and Barry Hawkins against Tep Trio on New. Monday, 7 p.m. Judd Trump against Mark Allen to a finish, and Wu Yisu against Chris Wakelin. That's what I mean then. They do the finish and the other one. It guarantees play and
Yeah,
it guarantees people with something to watch, which is important. Tuesday at 1 p.m., John Higgins, Mark Williams, and Barry Hawkins, Tep Trio on New to a finish. Tuesday, 7 p.m. This is just mouth-watering, isn't it? John Higgins, Mark Williams to a finish. Wu Yisu, Chris Wakelin to a finish. And then we get into the next section. Sean Murphy against Trump or Allen, Neil Robertson against Hawkins or New. That's Wednesday afternoon. Then Wednesday night, Murphy against Trump or Allen to a finish, and Zhao Xintong against Wu or Wakelin. Thursday, 1 p.m., Selby against Williams or Higgins, Neil Robertson v Hawkins or New. Then Thursday night, those matches to a finish, Selby against Williams or Higgins, and Zhao Xintong against Wu or Wakelin. Then, of course, we've got the semi-finals next Friday and Saturday. And then Easter Sunday, April the 5th, the Tour Championship final. So, brilliant action. Brilliant event. I think I mentioned this last time on the air, but various people I know, because it's only the third one there, isn't it? I
mm.
go, people are going for the first time this year that I know. They're sort of saying, well, what's it like? And I'm saying, well, it's brilliant. And one of the things is you're going to have stuff all around it. There's so much to do, is you're in Manchester. You can tie it in with a nice day, doing a nice bite to eat, or there's so many other attractions in Manchester. I mean, I've always been a cities person. Cities are what moves me. I don't mind beautiful countryside and all that, and we'll go and see it in different places, of course, and amazing sort of natural vistas. But I'm a city person. I love being in the
Yeah.
heart of cities, and this is just one of our best ones in the UK. Tell you what, though, in different weather than last year. It was boiling. It was lovely every day. I've noticed
Mm.
well, a bit more classic Manchester next week. A lot of rain, but looking forward to it. Phil should be great. Sorry, Manchester, but it's true. And there we go. It's just we can't wait, can we? We'll go through the matches one by one, but hard to say which one I'm looking forward to. I mean, the obvious one is obviously Higgins and Williams. I mean, this is their first meeting at Crucible Epic last year.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, Trump and Allen, they're just all marvelous. Can't always love seeing Wu Yiza. And then, of course, Hawkins Tepchire is a nice little link up. They're both such recent winners, so they're both on a
Mm.
high. They got that element as well. And yeah, what are you looking forward to most? Just surely the whole thing, I suspect.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't look past Williams against Higgins, can you? Whenever and
Yeah.
two of those three
Yeah.
meet, it's really special, and they delivered just in spades last time, didn't they? I mean, just that's a bona fide Crucible classic, wasn't it, at the
Yeah,
time,
it was. It was.
and will be forever. So yeah, looking forward to seeing them. And I suppose that I mean, you could explain this in numerous ways, but we've only got Higgins in because it is a 12 because he's seed 11 for this, I think. So you wouldn't get that match if it wasn't for the revamp. But you
Yeah.
could keep going down the rankings and keep saying that endlessly. With there's loads of good players in there that aren't in, but yeah, Trump Allen is obviously a superb first rounder as well. But yeah, I think Hawkins against Tepchire is really interesting. It'll be fascinating to see how Tepchire can or can't continue that form. He's so inconsistent over his career. Will that just be a random amazing week, or can he keep it going? I had an interesting chat with Barry actually this week, and he was saying
Mm.
how the Welsh already feels like ages ago, and he's obviously got a completely different perspective to me, but in my mind, it just feels like quite a long time ago. Things just move on so fast, don't they?
Mm. They do.
And yeah, he didn't go to the World Open because of his back, which just sounds like it's still causing him quite a serious jip. So we'll see how he's getting on now. But yeah, it was a great run. I'd sort of forgotten how good that run was. With Williams, Robertson, Wu, and then Lisowski in the final, and Pang, Janyu Zhu before that as well. Great run. So yeah, fascinating to see that as well. Um, and then yeah, whoever wins, then you've got those great quarterfinals.
Mm.
So yeah, any of these sort of short, um, not format, it's not short format, short field events, you can't lose, can you?
You can't. It's all good. It's good when there's a two table early on, but then you get later on and it's just, you've got a great match all day. That's brilliant. And having just said that thing about we must remember this is an event, its own right. We also know the one after, the biggest one of them all, has that in spades. So we can all we can all say what we think should happen in a season, whether we should have even more long form snooker. There'll be different views on that, but it is great the season ends on that because in a way this
Mm.
is what. And look, we'll forget things. I definitely know I will. I'll be like, oh my God, he's in real trouble. This is a nightmare. When a player's like 4-1 down, and oh no, wait a minute, he's all right. He might come back.
Yeah, yeah.
You sort of, I always do that, no matter how old I am or whatever. It's just always like, oh, I have to ease back into the long form in a nice way again. And remember, the twists and turns are like no other. Intervals change matches, and what will happen in between the afternoon and the evening? Will that play with the players' minds? It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, Trump and
There was one
Allen.
actually when I had a look at because Wu's playing Wakelin. I had a look at their head to head, and they played in World Championship qualifying a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I think. And that was a match exactly like that. I think Wakelin was
Oh,
5-1 and 7-4 up and lost ten
blimey.
eight, which just can happen, can't it? I mean that's a superb win for Wu against a player as good as Chris, but those things happen in these kind of matches.
Yeah, I have half vague memories of that actually. Yeah, that is a a classic like example. We'll see so many like that. I mean, Trump and Allen, they last met in the quarterfinals of the Masters just gone. Trump winning 6-2. I mean, there's so many big matches if you go back in history. I mean, goodness, I had a look just in this decade, the 20s. They played in both the World Grand Prix and Champion the Champions finals in 23.
Mm.
And it's just loads of great meetings. Alan won both those actually, but of
He
course
actually hammered him in one of those in the Champion of Champions, wasn't it?
he did win it heavily. Yeah, he did actually. I don't have the score here, but it was. I noticed that was quite a heavy one. And of course, when they were they're young men now, really, but in many ways, but they were really young men in 2011, of course, when Judd won 10-8. That was Judd's first Triple Crown to win the UK. And I had a look right back. It was 2008, so nearly 2 decades ago. They first met at the Bahrain Championship. So big match, hard to predict. Think about Mark Allen is. There's absolutely no reason why you should sort of fear any of the top players, really. But he's a great one for sort of taking it to the top players, I think. sort of
Mm.
socking it to them a bit. He's even like it with Ronnie, but he's certainly like it with Judd. And I think he's, it's a fascinating one to watch that in so many ways. I mean, the Hawkins Tepchire, well, the problem for Tepchire there is it's nil against his name and they're head-to-heads for. He's never
Yeah,
beaten
saw that.
Barry. Yeah, they met at the Xi'an Grand Prix. I don't particularly remember that this season. Barry winning 5-2. But of course, Tepchire, as you say, just on a high, just had that World Open win. And Barry with the Welsh Open win a few weeks before. So they've got great recent sort of happiness of winning tournaments, and they'd love to put another one on the board before the sort of season is done. And well, yeah, Wu Yizu and Wakelin 3-1 to Wu in the head-to-heads. Wu won 4-2 when they met at the English Open, obviously short match this season. That's a really interesting one, actually. I just love seeing Wu Yizu every time he plays, and Chris so redoubtable now. Nice match. Everyone is fascinating. And I like it that Higgins and Williams haven't met since that Crucible Classic.
Mm.
You know, it's 13-12. It was one for the ages. It really was. Never forget that day. That one of those boiling hot days in Sheffield last year. Absolutely brilliant. The atmosphere will be electric for that. I know you'll be there for that. You lucky devil. That'll be smashing. That really will. Whenever those, it's one of those where they all have a bit of a superior record, don't they, head to head with each other a little bit. This is an
Mm.
example of that, actually, I think, isn't it? That I'll have to look at the head to head now. I said that and just get the right numbers. But while I do that, waffle away.
Yeah, but it's they've obviously played a whole load of times over the years because they've been playing so long, but we haven't seen them play loads recently. They played in the 2022 Masters, but they've only played twice since then. So four and a bit years, and that World
Uh,
Championship one. The other one was in Saudi at the World Masters, so a short form game there. So we've not seen loads of that match recently. I went right back to their first ever professional meeting. Obviously, they played as juniors before that, but the 1994 Thailand Open, which Mark Williams won in the last 64, 5-4. And then he lost to Peter Emden in the next round. I was fascinated. I found myself scrolling through that tournament. Ronnie was in that event. He beat Gary Wilkinson, and then he got whitewashed by James Wassenaar, who went on to win the title. So heady days
wow.
back in the 1994 Thailand Open. But yeah, there's. I was looking at the head-to-heads of Judd Trump and Mark Allen were quite interesting as well. Allen's ahead on that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Um, yeah, and he has, like you said, he's good against the good players. He's a good record against Selby as well, isn't he? And it was interesting. They played. I don't always look at this really, but their total frames. I mean, it's really level. 271 frames they played, and Allen is ahead 141 to 130. So there's not much in it. But it just shows. I mean, they're very evenly matched players, you would say on that front. But Judd's obviously won a whole lot more in his career. But I would say that's a very difficult match to pick, as so many of them are in this tournament.
For sure. Really hard one to pick. Well, if you take everything into account, it's Higgins 38, Williams 25 here on Q track, and they helpfully say that's, well, rounding it up, that's 57% success there. They got some draws actually. It must be Championship League, is it? They count everything. I guess that would be part of it.
Premier
Or
League as well,
Premier
I
League
think.
going
So, yeah.
back, Premier League, yeah. Um, so again, I mean, Higgins is a better snooker player than Mark Williams, but we're talking greatness here. You know, it's not not much in it, so maybe that's not surprising. But I always think they tend to fall into patterns. You know, those matches, and mind you, of course, what happened last time was that Williams got the victory. What colour was it along that cushion? Was it a blue? That was
Mm.
unbelievable drama wasn't it, from John when he missed that? And then I always thought it was underrated, the next shot. I always thought that was a far thinner and more awkward shot for Mark, and you didn't really get all the credit I felt for that. But he cleared up. It
Yeah,
was a
I think you're right.
mighty effort and a mighty match, and we're looking forward to them playing again. And I'm not sure if you've got much more to say about the Tour Championship, Phil. Of course, if Channel 5 coverage, we look forward to that. We got used to it, didn't we, last time? And the familiar faces and voices will very much enjoy that. And they had great figures, as I
Mm.
pointed out last time, 800,000 for the final. I'm sure that'll go up. And of course, the international football break, continues. So it'll be a nice. I think it's done that a few times now. It seems to be nice little window till the Premier League comes back. So it might have a nice little bit of midweek days to itself. That all helps as well. This is all important. So settle back, enjoy it, everyone. We know you will. It's a highlight, isn't it? It's a special one. It's a smashing one. These player series are all good, but nothing quite like the Tour Championship, and it'll no doubt throw up some brilliant stories and matches in the days to come.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. I think some places sort of take a while to take root in a new venue, new city. But this one was just like an instant hit, really, wasn't it? And I mean, no one was that surprised by that, but you don't see it all the time. Um, and yeah, we were there last year. We met quite a few people that had listened to the
Oh,
podcast when we were milling around
we did actually.
in that sort of Q zone bit, which is very good. So hopefully see some more people there this time round. And yeah, I imagine you can't really get a bad final out of the 12 playing here, but if it's a couple of the biggest names, then yeah, you would expect some very good figures there for them viewing wise. So yeah, lots to look forward to. Some people more obviously who are informed than others. Neil Robertson's season I find quite hard to pin down at the minute. It's going to be interesting to see how he gets on. Riding high, still at the top of the 1 year list, but you know, arguably has had a disappointing campaign in a weird way. There's so much of it came in Saudi, didn't it? Semi-final at the UK as well is good, and then a bit hit and miss everywhere else. So see how he gets on. And yeah, everyone else, has shown good form relatively recently to be in this event, but some more so than others. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, good way of summing it up. We really look forward to it, don't we? The Tour Championship in Manchester, special event coming up. Enjoy it all, folks. I know we can be UK centric, live in the UK on Channel 5, but for your broadcasting arrangements elsewhere, you should go to the WST website. And Phil, we're heading towards the last section of this specially extended episode, and maybe we'll give another name check, shall we? So you are listening to the Talking Snooker podcast with Phil Haigh and Nick Metcalfe. Hello, this is Talking Snooker with Phil Haigh and Nick Metcalfe, and we have some sad news from the world of snooker. The man that a newspaper in the 1980s once described as TV's Mr. Snooker, Nick Hunter, has died at the age of 87. Nick Hunter was one of the most influential producers in the long history of BBC Sport and a hugely important figure when it comes to the story of snooker on television. As executive producer, Nick was heavily involved in negotiations for the BBC's coverage when it first showed action from the World Championship of the Crucible, initially in the form of highlights in 1977, and then with live coverage from 1978 onwards. Nick played a key role in shaping the format of the coverage in those early days, with many of the patterns remaining unchanged even now. He was always a great advocate of snooker, rock solid in his belief that the sport would establish itself as a popular attraction on television. How right he was. Indeed, on Nick's watch, snooker became a cornerstone of British public life. Nick worked alongside some of the giants of snooker commentary at the time, like the voice of snooker, Ted Lowe, and brought some of the most famous voices we've ever known into the BBC team, like the late John Virgo. Nick was on duty for some of the most iconic moments in the history of the sport, like the Blackball final in 1985, when more than 18 million viewers watched after midnight on BBC Two as Dennis Taylor beat Steve Davis. Nick was under pressure in the spring of 1982 when he was told the coverage of the aftermath of the World Final needed to end as soon as possible. But memorably, Nick said, "I can see a baby in shot. That baby was called Lauren. Her dad was called Alex Higgins." Higgins' mouthing of "baby, my baby" became one of the most famous sporting images of the 1980s. Nick, who was based in Manchester, wasn't just a big player in TV coverage of snooker, but across a number of sports, including darts, rugby league, cricket, and bowls. So powerful was he at one time that he was said to be in charge of his own Northern Empire. Nick introduced split screen technology into darts coverage, so viewers at home could see both the facial reaction of players and the board. He was an innovator and always tried to broaden the BBC's horizons. Nick produced coverage of the unforgettable 1981 Ashes series between England and Australia, the series that will forever be known as Botham's Ashes. Nick went to Australia one winter to help with Channel 9's cricket coverage and noted they had started to use cameras at both ends during matches. He encouraged the BBC to follow suit. Nick also created the much-loved quiz show A Question of Sport and was its first producer. Away from sport, Nick directed coverage of major events like Pope John Paul's visit to the UK in 1982. Nick always had a way of connecting to big stories, big moments. He had that from childhood. As a boy, he was chorister at Westminster Abbey and sang at the funeral of King George VI in 1952. Nick continued to work on the BBC snooker team until the late 1980s, before moving to British satellite broadcasting and then other television projects. In a week when we've learned that the World Championship will stay at the Crucible for generations to come, we've lost one of the key pioneers. I was lucky to know Nick myself. In fact, when I first went to the Crucible for the 1995 World Final between Stephen Hendry and Nigel Bond, it was Nick who kindly arranged a ticket for me. The link between Nick and snooker is a tangible one that will stand the test of time. Nick was predeceased by his daughter Claire and wife Bridget. We offer our condolences to Nick's family and friends, including his two sons, Michael and Neil. And may Nick rest in peace. Phil, we're going to head towards any other business now on this podcast. And obviously, we have both been reacting to news, my radio snooker service, to that, those Crucible developments and that stunning new deal. I've also written a Sporting Life column that's available now. And you've already mentioned some of the things you've been doing. Smashing interview with Sean Murphy and Barry Hawkins too, and Jason Ferguson about the possible academy in the future. So loads going on for you. And of course, players talking about Manchester. I guess it's difficult for them, isn't it, sort of mindset wise, because they know Sheffield's so big, but this is massive before, so they've got to try and sort of pigeonhole their thoughts as well as they can, eh?
Yeah, I mean, they say, I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure, but we're talking about how no one wins the Tour Championship and going to wins the World Championship. But are players aware of that kind of thing? I don't know. Certainly, you would hope they're not thinking about that kind of thing. I know in Telford actually it was interesting. Players were noting that they wouldn't necessarily want to, go on a rampage and win, the Players, the World Open, the Tour. That more than one player's mentioned that, not getting too many frames under the belt. So, look, all that being said, everyone at the Tour Championship is trying their very hardest to win it, and it'll be excellent as a result. But yeah, no, all that stuff you mentioned for me, obviously Barry Hearn was there. So there's been a number of Barry Hearn lines because he chucks them out at will and it's superb stuff. There's probably one or two more to come. And then, yeah, I'm in Manchester sort of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So looking forward to chatting to people there and doing those little bits with Abby like I did at the Players. So keep an eye out for me on Channel 5.
Very much look forward to that. You'll be in the old Roger Melly, Phil. And, well, who was it that Barry told that? What was it that darts line about? Was it Littler? Was it demanding better food?
Yeah, he did sort of a round table, so we were all together in it. And I think we were talking about if there would be any players' complaints to the Crucible News. And he said, "Oh, it's just part of sport. There's always complaints. Even the darts players complain. They tell this story about Littler's team asking for a chef." And he was just like, "Shut up and drink your lager."
I bet our great mate Bobby Moore loved that. I remember you all loved it, but that was brilliant.
Oh, yeah, he had us cracking up at times, to be fair. Oh, and congratulations, Rob Moore. He was shortlisted for a Sports Journalism Award.
Oh,
So very well done to him.
exactly. And well, there's been a bit of controversy over the years. A lot of those red top guys think they're always ignored for those sort of things, and it's always been a bit contentious. But yeah, Rob Moore, I noticed that on the short list, and well, he's a universally popular character, Rob. I have to say, whenever I come across different parts of the business, I always say Rob Moore. I said, "Oh, say hello to Rob. He's such a nice guy, and he definitely is, no doubt about it." It was great to have had a great night on that Leeds Chelsea match in December. In coming home, he was cracking me up with some of the stories he was telling me about his various sporting travels. Phil, I think we've come to the end really, and it's been a hell of a few days in this sport. It really has. It's been overwhelming a bit in a good way. I've had loads of lovely messages, and I have to say, just to be serious for a moment, people have told me they've been very moved by this. People have
Mm.
said to me, good certain people that I know that said that actually that they found themselves in with tears coming when they heard it, and that's how much it means. And I did hear one or two people say, "Oh, they wouldn't understand if you're not a snooker fan." And I don't know if I'm even this old cynic. I'm not quite sure, but I think people understand if you're passionate about anything in life, if you've got a passion, and that I think our love of the Crucible and our love of this sport. I know we work on it, but we watched it before we worked on it. I think for all of us, it fits into the word passion a bit, and that's how emotions can be close to the surface, isn't it? And it's tied in with those memories and the history and all that. And someone else said to me as well, "What a name!" It's one of the best names in sport, isn't it? The Crucible.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we're so fortunate like that, aren't we? It's just it is right there. It's in that crucible of drama. It's the most perfect name, and we'll be uttering it for a long, long time to come, sir.
yeah. Sure. No, there is something in that, isn't there? I mean, the Sheffield Arena has nothing on that name wise, does it?
No.
I think it's called the Utilita Arena, which is even worse. But yeah, no, I think even if you have nothing to do with the sport and stuff, like just the idea that it was just going to go to the highest bidder, potentially in a sort of soulless arena where they'd struggle to get players, anyone in there watching. I don't know how likely it going to Saudi actually ever was, but there was thoughts of that, and certainly the picture was painted that that could happen. And I think there's a feeling in the world in general that everything is going just it's all about money, and it's like the feeling and the soul of stuff is becoming less and less important. So I think people who even didn't couldn't care less about snooker would be buoyed by this kind of news, um, where there's a bit more to things than just the highest bidder winning things. So yeah, no, I think it has been almost unanimously positively received, which is a very nice thing to say.
Yeah, I think I use the word novelty in my sporting life column because you're right. In a world of sort of cold hard, and there was the commercial elements to this. It's a
Of
lot of
course,
money
yeah.
involved, but yeah, I think that's right. It could have got more money elsewhere. That is true. And I was always one that believed, oh, you don't know if it will do well. I think it would have done well elsewhere actually, because I think the brand of the World Championship and the event is so special in British sport and world sport that I think it would have done well elsewhere. But you know, I say I think we should and we will talk up that golden ticket thing even more now. I mean, you've been there enough times, Phil. I've been there in that foyer, and I've spoken to people, seen people, chatted to them. They're making their one visit of that
Mm.
year. It might be their first visit ever. It's about being there. Yeah, they can't wait to see the great snooker on offer or whatever match they're watching, but it's about the whole thing. It's just being there, and that's so special. And those of us that love sport, we know that feeling, whether we go to Lords or Wimbledon or Wembley, wherever it is, thank God we got one like that in snooker. We got some great
Mm.
venues elsewhere as well, but we got that event that transcends the sport. And I made was it someone else? Oh, two or three of my correspondents on radio snooker. It's sort of true, really. You don't often even say, "Oh, I'm I'm going to the World Championship. You do sort of say I'm going to the Crucible, and I always say that thing. It
Mm.
feels like more of a pilgrimage. And I think even like I love the events in the spring, and I sometimes will say, well, of course we got the Grand National, we got the Masters, the Crucible. The venue's almost as important. That's the way you
Yeah.
kind of address it. And there are people out there that know nothing about snooker, really, next to nothing, that have heard of the Crucible. And how incredible is that? That means a lot, doesn't it? That counts for a lot. So we've got to we're going to look forward to it. I've got a terrible feeling you may have frozen right at the end there.
Oh, I can still hear you. If you
Oh,
you hear
great!
me,
You've
we're all
broken
right.
up. We got to say, I said earlier, this was a bit too serious an episode to be joking about. We had a terrible attempt, didn't we?
It was
Uh,
bad. It was
it
bad
was a
stuff.
nightmare for about 30, 40 minutes. I thought you were furious with me at one time when you just froze but it was just you. And I was saying it was the worst attempt at a live show since Sam Fox and Mick Fleetwood presented the Brits. I mean, that's one for the teenagers, isn't it? I mean, another up-to-date cultural reference from me. Shall we go then? After what has been, it feels like a big episode in a big week. And
Yeah,
thanks for listening, everybody. And I know many of you will love this news, and well, yeah, just relish it and the tournaments to come long into the future. But the one coming up, we can't wait for, of course, the World Championship. Before that, the Tour Championship. Loads of great snooker to come. And farewell. What else can I say but salute you and say farewell?
yeah. I'll give one shout out to some snooker ongoing, the Asia Pacific Open and the British Women's Open. I've not actually seen any. I think you can probably watch some somewhere. But there's a tour card on offer at the Asia Pacific one, which is into the semis. We can actually do a bit of Vidi Brinter. Vinny
Go on.
Calabrese won, Ryan Thomason won in one semi-final, and Paul Norris nil, Lomnau Ayutthaya nil. Don't know too much about those two guys, but do know about the Aussies in the other side. Vinny Calabrese and Ryan Thomason both been on tour before.
Yeah.
So one of those four guys will be earning a tour card in the next day or so.
Well, other results of that next time, won't we? And the women's is at Landywood, isn't it? Well
Yeah,
remembered. Yeah. Some top stars and top talent at that event across the weekend. We'll have that next time as well. We haven't discussed it, but I guess we'll be back after the Tour Championship.
sounds sensible.
So it does sounds like a sensible plan for once from us. And all the best to you, sir. Thanks for your company as ever, and thanks to everybody out there for listening. And what news it's been! The Crucible will host this sport's most famous event until at least 2045. This has been a special episode in so many ways of Talking Snooker and a special week for the sport. And that for now, from your old friends, Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Cheerio.